And then, oh God, what was it? Oh, Lord.
You all right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God, I know. Where'd you go? Oh my God.
He sat right here last year and said he was done. Remember? One time I talked to him.
But then Art doesn't have any arms, so I wanted him on the and listen to this. You learn a winter jacket. Exactly. What part of Texas is Okay. No. Oh, there's Galveston down. I'm just watching Island. Wherever they
It's a short.
One of our kids.
They're all very good. Alex, by the way, he weighs 150 right now. So they'll probably. I haven't seen
One more after this one. Yeah. You want this year? One more? Just one more.
One more.
I've heard the stories.
Randy, what do you think? Need me to help you set that up?
I'll keep that. It looks like I'm going to grab this chair.
Sit on it.
Oh, God. Now, I was over TJ with Coach Stone, but you know, everybody was like crowding in there. There was a couple of people. I was nice, so I could have been a dick. They're like,
I'm not a big fan of these crowded scenes.
I don't mind them, but I have the ones. But everybody, there were chairs short.
Oh, yeah.
And I was the odd chair. And I said, I got here fucking 45 minutes before they did. I said, y'all know him. I wasn't going to be a dick about it, but I'm right. Which table y'all at, TJ?
Sitting over here. We're all the way to the left. First one to the left, right up against the wall.
Okay. Looking good. Where you still want to help out at Medley? basically 14 hours a day.
I'm 5 a.m.
Oh, it sucks. But I mean, I'll grab one. Okay, I'm gonna grab my camera back.
We'd like to welcome everyone to the 19th National Wrestling Hall of Fame Banquet, sponsored by the West Virginia chapter. And at this time, it's a great day in wrestling for West Virginia. And I'd like for you to stand and we give the pledge of allegiance to the flag, and please remain standing for the blessing. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bow your heads, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we're just truly grateful for your many blessings that you've bestowed upon us. Today we'll gather together to honor several men who have truly witnessed a blessing in their lives. They are being honored for their service to the sport of wrestling. Their friends and family have come to recognize and applaud their accomplishments. The young men and women that they have coached and mentored are here to acknowledge what these men have meant to them. How they inspire and enrich the lives of others is a legacy that we can hope that those lives that they have touched will carry on into the future. Now, Lord, we pray that you bless the hands that have prepared the meal and will also serve this meal and that we're about to receive. Bless it to the nourishment of our bodies, Lord, that we may better serve you. And in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Move Silver.
Okay, this year's inductees, you can line up with your dates and we'll let you get to the first.
Strict rules, can't mention Beane. I might be able to mimic it. But I'm not saying nothing about it. But it was pretty funny when that Secret Service agent with his lost and graduate went, it's the big White House, sir. Okay. We're very lucky this year that we have a person from the national. Another reason I probably can't be my true self. Because they obviously couldn't do it every banquet every year, they wouldn't have any money. So Chris Groff from the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, that's where she works. And she's going to tell you a little bit about what's going on and show you.
congratulations to our honorees this evening on behalf of our Board of Governors. It's our honorees that truly make a difference in our sport, but also in our country. So thank you so much for all the time and the dedication that you've given to ensure that we have well-rounded individuals in our country. We are beginning our 45th year and celebrating for the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, and it couldn't be more exciting at the Hall of Fame. We strive our very best to make sure that we can tell the story of wrestling, and this is a big piece of wrestling's story. Our grassroots and all of our high school coaches and college coaches and officials and contributors are very important, and we want to ensure that we can tell those stories for years to come. So if you ever get a chance, make sure you stop by the Hall of Fame in Stillwater, Oklahoma, or you can stop by our secondary museum in Waterloo, Iowa, and see all of our amazing honorees. Thank you so much for being here this evening. It's always wonderful to be able to get together with our wrestling family. So I am going to show you a quick glimpse of the Hall of Fame in Stillwater.
Wrestlers have played an influential role in the you can find a place, you can find a home with a wrestling team. You can find a way to compete on the wrestling level.
We draw our inspiration from those who work with our youth, not only teaching our sport, but more importantly, its character building and life-altering traits. On behalf of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, I want to welcome our newly inducted state chapter honorees and encourage those of you here today to visit Wrestling Shrine and discover why this is where wrestling's legends live on. Preserving history, recognizing excellence, inspiring generations, paying tribute to not only the oldest sport, but the greatest sport. Welcome to your National Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Thank you so much for being here. I would like to take just a minute to say thank you to our West Virginia chapter board members and their spouses. They have spent a tremendous amount of time in making sure that this evening is wonderful for all of our honorees and our wrestling families, so thank you so much.
Okay, I gotta say a bunch of stuff. Dang, you marked some things out. Obviously not anything new. Anyway, when they talk about the board, first off, Wayne, you and your wife stand up, please. Well, that's my wife, Diane, that's it. I know, Gary comes after all the work is through, Mr. Bender. So let me tell you how this works. I guess it was about 21 years ago, they told me that they wanted me to be the president for 2 years. Someone lied. So now in the 19th year, here I still am. So unless they make some kind of rules, I guess, unless you heard that, I'll be here next year. Okay, so the deal is, so you understand, first off, let me get the word stuff out of the way. I still have not gotten used to George died. George Keeney has been to everything we've ever done. He was always responsible for getting this place and dealing with him. Now, I tried to think, because you guys that are old like me, you know all you do is go to funerals. And I think that the reason George bothers me so much is he always seemed like he just wanted you to like him. And he got COVID, and he had all the shots and stuff, and they said he wouldn't go to the hospital. They would call me his ass and went to the hospital. But anyway, and then also, Ron Mauck and I started out as kind of a rough relationship because it wasn't the president that did his commission, but those guys kind of wanted us to fight to get the state tournament. If you look at the thing that Jenny has on the website, you'll see that it was Huntington, Wheeling, Huntington, Wheeling, Huntington, and stuff like that. And basically, back then, the state tournament didn't make any money. Didn't make any money. And the gate was like $13,000 or $14,000. That's not very good. So then they wouldn't let anybody donate money. They wouldn't take sponsorship. And I tried to tell them that that's where everything was going to be, but they just weren't just listening with their thoughts as the people we had down on the way up. And anyway, so Ron and I were competing to get the state tournament. And basically, after I got some donations and did things different, for say, we won. But that's really not the case. The state tournament schedule that you see today, oh, Ron called. Excuse me, I'm like riding. I saw looking at a funeral. The guys watch to see if I can get out. Oh, it's there. He's worse than me. All right, anyway, so didn't start out very well. And we have the same time schedule that they had when they were willing. And sure, I could change anything 30 minutes or something just to do it. Anyway, we keep it that because of him. Every time he came here, the WAC used to be the place, and times have changed and stuff changed, and of course, WSCZ has 115 teams. And you have to be kind of mentally ill and have things wrong with you along the way. But Ron would come here and talk to me every time. Those are two guys that really had a big effect on wrestling. So the reason I'm saying that, you will see some envelopes on your table. And another one of my gigantic failures was, George was the happiest guy in the world, without explaining where they came from, because of family stuff. George had 2 in-law kids that him and his girlfriend adopted. And George said, the guy went, who wrote this letter? He said, it made me scared not to give you the kids. And it was kind of like in later life, I think things mean more to you in later life when you learn something and we give it to you because it's something that's recent. Anyway, so George got these kids. He would bring them every time. They were top of the line. George talked about them all the time. It was like he didn't have any kids of his own. And so, I don't think, did Jeremy come? Okay, I told him not to do it. We put on the West Virginia mat and that GoFundMe crap, and we got about $11,000 because George wasn't married and didn't have very much money. So now his wife and Mark Sample's sister are trying to make it through this. So if any of y'all see those envelopes on this, you want to give it money, give it to Diane, and if you write a check, make it half out to the president of the West Virginia Wrestling. No. I don't even know. So anyway, use those envelopes, give it to Diane. But Jeremy told me he'd be here, but it's official what they expect. So anyway, Ronnie and Jeremy, and then also you saw Mr. Medley, and we have both their names in there. So every year, there's almost always someone has died or someone's woman, but George is very special, and so is Ronnie. All right, going on. Oh, well, hate doing this. Anyway, when Diane asked me to marry her, I mean, there was a big line. Seriously. And I really hadn't even decided on my career. I said, male model, wrestling coach. But I raised the right because I was wrestling for Marshall with her. So she just thought this was something you had to do all the time. So I got a day. She's the president of Republican Women. Only way she was taking me. And then she goes and was president of the hospital volunteer board. Then she started a wrestling program, a reading program at the middle school. So I go, is there going to be any open days? And because I thought we had kids and stuff, everybody was gone. I was retired now. And she says, you can't do that now. So this is who does everything. Basically, I'm the director of state tournament, and Diane does it all. The program you have, Diane did all of it. All of it. All they have me do is talk. Very insulting. Very insulting. Wayne and his wife do all the stuff with the tickets and everything like that. It's a great, great couple. I don't know. I thought Diane was the dumbest person one I ever met until I met Wayne's wife. I'm just telling them like it. What's that? Could you let me go just one damn day? One day, don't give me a list. I made my list. And she copied it. And look, she corrected the spelling. It's not funny. Anyway, continuing along. On the inductees, so you know how it goes. Basically, it kind of works itself out. The stuff's on the computer, and people send us recommendations, and then it usually comes out however many it is, and we have to send it to the National Wrestling Foundation. They look to make sure nobody has been a criminal. There was, I will say that Troy Owens, I was a little bit worried. You have these first, well, when you asked the guy, have you invited all your kids? He went, I think. So, anyway. Okay, now, so I do not forget this. At the state tournament, I have a relationship with the director. Okay? Now, if he does, I don't know what happens. But we invite all the guys that are inducted each year to walk in with the champion. Okay? So all of you are to come. Don't come and ask me for a ticket. You just come and you get in. I told you I know the guys. Okay? So don't worry about it. But that's a pretty big honor. Not awarded, for example, unless, I don't know, if we broke some rule or they changed it. If someone came out and was a coach for 10 years and won 10 state championships, he really wouldn't qualify because it's called a lifetime service. So I think one guy at 24 or something like that. Most of the time, everybody has way past 20. It's for a lifetime achievement. Okay? And the last award is probably the most important. That's why it's last. Okay? Because it's for outstanding West Virginia. This is someone that wrestled, in this case, at Beckley and Marshall. And in their life, they had outstanding achievement. And they're supposed to be, I think. We do not give it every year, intentionally. Same way for the Medal of Courage. We don't give courage. It's kind of like giving the Outstanding Wrestler Award when it wasn't one. So it's for super, super special people, and we did that this time. The people that have gotten it were a Green Beret sniper who killed himself. The priest. Police officer got killed in the line of duty. So this just isn't, of course, there isn't always a hero. Okay? So the one we have this time is a super guy and has super achievements. Okay, so let's start with number one, and I will go through this in order. And there's one of the first things that I read when I read the thing how to do this, it said, do not read what's in the program. And every year before I come to this, 2 weeks, they have the City Huntington Hall of Fame, which I'm in because I make them all rich on the stage at WSAD. It's not because I'm charming. Anyway, and they have the mayor read it. And it's about 5 pages that I sit through. But anyway, we don't do this. So most people, I won't say that you have what's in the program. There are one I just said. Anyway, we go from there. So first, we're doing it in alphabetical order. So Sterling Beane, come on up. Let's come up on the other side.
That could have been bad. First of all, I am Sterling Beane, senior. Since there's three of us, I just want to make sure they gave the award to the right person. And but I'd like to thank everybody for the honor today to be here. I would like to thank Coach Archer and his wife Diane and Mr. Bennett. In fact, I was in driver's education when I got the call from Mr. Bennett. And I had this student on the road for the first time. And we got sideswiped 2 or 3 cars before I could get stopped to take the call, Mr. Bennett. So it was quite an eventful day. But, one time, just in the last few years, somebody asked me, said, well, Coach, how long have you been coaching? I said, well, probably close to 50 years. They said, well, why did you stay there so long at wrestling? And I said, well, it's kind of like this. I enjoy going to the state tournament and hearing Coach Archer's tales and stories every year, so I just keep coming back for more, you know? So I like that. I just want to tell you a little bit. I went to, about how I got started. I went to Glenville State College to play football and to be a coach. That's always what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a football coach, and I met a couple guys by the name of Chuck Mills and Joe Mills. And they wrestled for Work County at that time. And we didn't have wrestling in our school or in our county. And so I met those guys, and they started the program back up at Glenville State. So one day, we all roomed together. They came in and they said, Coach, think about it, or Sterling, you know, we have everybody on the team except the heavyweight. Would you like to do it? And I said, well, I've never wrestled before. They said, oh, you do great. We'll teach you everything you need to know. So I went out, and of course, I fell in love with the sport, and I got started. And after a few months, I got bitten by the bug, you know. So I did that. But after graduating from Glenville State, I signed a contract to teach in Braxton County. And right after I graduated and got my diploma, 1 week later, I got another diploma. The selective service sent me a letter that said, congratulations, you've been drafted into the United States Army. So I decided, what am I going to do? So I went and talked to my dad. My dad was always the best person around. He would always give you good advice and everything. And he said, well, I'll tell you what, you can go and try to get into National Guards. And if you can get into National Guard, you can teach, coach, and do your military service. So I did that. And after a couple years at Braxton County, I wanted to start a wrestling team. And I went and talked to the board. They was all for it. And they decided that they would start a team. But we had to jump through hoops in order to get the team. The first year we had to do intramurals. And most of my kids were probably just real tough kids, and they had a good time and everything. In Glenville, Gilmer County High School loaned us a mat. Well, it's not like the wrestling match, you know, today. It was like an old padding type mat, and we had a big old blue cover we put on it. And when you walk across it, you'd sink in. In fact, I got one of my first wrestlers ever here with us tonight. So that was the first thing. And then the next year, they said, Coach Beane, if you will raise the money for a wrestling mat, we'll let you have a team. We'll buy the uniforms and so forth. So we got started doing that. We sold everything in Braxton County. We sold some people's cows, you know, just anything we could find to make a little money, we would sell it. And we raised the $1,800 for the mat. when we got started. And the first year was 1972-73. Well, I'd like to thank some people here real quickly, and I won't hold you all. But most of all, I'd like to thank my wife, Judy. She passed away last July, and she was my biggest fan. She helped me in every sport I did, whether it was baseball, wrestling, football. She was always there. She was a great woman. And, you know, the saying, behind every good man, there's a great woman. Well, she was a great woman. She loved wrestling. She knew how to score it and everything. And she was a great mother to the boys on the team and just did everything. I remember early in my career, we went to a tournament down at Herb Hoover. And I went over to the main table, and there was a couple of referees talking over there, and they said, you know, how's it going today? How's everything going? He said, good. He said, I don't think there's you know, everybody thinks I've been doing a good job officiating. And he said, well, why not? He said, well, that blonde-headed lady there, she didn't think my calls were very good. And I looked, and that was more like, and then I had a couple of years that I didn't have an assistant coach. So my wife stepped up and she said, I'll do it. So we were at the state tournament. We were on the placing round, and I had two boys up on the mats. And she took one guy, and I took the other. And she went over, and when this guy got done, he had won third place in the state. Well, she never let me live that down. She said, I'll be out coaching, and I was the brains. So, you know, and that was, she was just such an inspiration to me and so forth. I'd like to thank my son. He'd load up on the bus and go to all the wrestling tournaments with us. In fact, he would teach the wrestlers up in the bleachers how to play cards, or I'd have to get his money back for him. It was something else. I tried to get him to wrestle, by the way. And he went to one tournament and he got third place. He got this big old trophy, brought home and gave it to his mom. And he said, Mom, Dad took me. He said, I liked it. It was okay. But I think I'm going to play basketball. So, and then, you know, I'd like to thank the many wrestlers that were out there every year, you know, the blood, sweat, and tears that they had when they participated in the sport. I'd have to be remiss not to mention the Medley boys. The Medley boys are sitting right here. But anyway, my wife had them in kindergarten, or preschool. And I would go down to her class, and I would go in and I said, all right, who wants to learn to wrestle? And of course, you got about 20 kids jumping up and down, they're ready to go, you know. And so the Medley boys were there, and they said, Coach, do you think you'll be coaching when we get up to school? And I said, well, I don't know. I don't know if I'll still be there or not. They said, I'll tell you what you do. You take your vitamins and drink your juice, and you'll be there when we get there. And I was lucky to get to you know, coach them. So, and I want to thank all the guys that helped me coach. I see Doc Stewart sitting back here. I remember one time at a match, his son was one of our wrestlers, and he got his eye cut down. Old Doc took him back to the dressing room, put stitches in his eye, put a Band-Aid there, and shoved him right back out on the mat, and we were ready to go. And all the many friends I made, all the referees. Now, I never did get on the referee very much. Is that right, guys? But I did go to Clay County one time. Rick Parks was sitting there, and we had this one wrestler and had the other one on his back, and I looked there and I said, you couldn't get a piece of wax paper under his back here between him and the mat. And the guy said, one more coach and you're out of here. So, but I appreciate all the referees, all the coaches I've got to know over the years. And my philosophy basically has been, you know, we've had fun. The kids have had fun. I've always given them all the speech. Now, you got to be dependable. You got to do what you got to do. You got to be there to practice every day. You know, what's it going to be like when you grow up and you get out on your own. And you have to sacrifice only for yourself and for your partner in life. Be dependable, and everything else will fall in place. But I just hope that those of you who are sitting here today will have or have experienced the same fun being a part of wrestling that I have. I thank you very much.
Okay. Can't not say this. Mr. Delligatti was the mayor of Ceremonies. He got kicked out of the tournament. They kicked the mayor. I still love that story. I said, isn't he the mayor? He got kicked out. So, we'll let him tell. Come on up, Mark.
I want to thank everybody for coming here today. I want to thank everyone that's here to celebrate this wonderful occasion. I feel very humbled to be included in an event like this with such great inductees. I'd like to tell you how I got started in wrestling. I was never really a wrestler at the beginning. When I was 10 years old, I was playing 5th grade basketball for the Whitehall Wildcats, and my grandson goes there now. And I probably thought I was a better basketball player than I really was. But anyway, we were playing a game, and the second half, we had the jump ball, and they tipped the ball, and it came to me, and I got it. And since we were already shooting on that same basket the half before, I took like 4 strides, set up, and hit a 20-foot jump shot for the wrong team. It was at that time that when I came home from the game, and my dad was in the game, he looked at me and said, "Son, you never won't make it as a wrestler." He said, "That's probably going to be one of your last games that you ever get to play in." But what really upset me was where the other team was laughing and cheering for me for scoring 2 points for them. Because I averaged 4 points a game, and that day I went -2 points for that game. It was after that basketball season that I went on to wrestling. And I didn't really start wrestling until I got in the 7th grade. And I went wrestling, like Mr. Beane was talking about his mat. They had like a real hard base, and then you had a cover that came over and folded under on both sides. So, I mean, that's all we had. And we really practiced like on top of where the locker room was like a spare room, and that's where we practiced at. Anyway, I got to wrestle from our first wrestling coach, Mike Stoniker. And Mike Stoniker is the same Mike Stoniker that later went on and became a referee. It wasn't until later on when I started coaching that I realized Coach Stoniker was a better coach than referee Stoniker was as a referee. I'm just joking. After junior high, I entered Fairmont Senior High School in September of 1976. It was then that I started wrestling for the Polar Bears and Coach Joe Narnicola. I owe a lot to Coach Narnicola over the years. He has taken me to many wrestling tournaments and camps all over the state as both a wrestler and as an assistant coach. He's been a teacher, a coach, and most of all, a great friend. I just want to say thanks, Coach. As a coach, I learned a long time ago that you're only as good as the wrestlers you have and the assistant coaches and the support staff that you have working with you. I'd like to say thanks to all of you who made it here today for my induction. I was truly blessed with a great group of people over the years who support the Bull Bear Wrestling Program. That is why the Fairmont Senior High Wrestling Program has traditionally been one of the best in the state. And I'd like to take this time for all the Fairmont people, the Bull Bear Wrestling people who came here today, to please stand up. That's why I like to get and you still very nice man. Thank you, guys. Now we'll talk about the family. Coach Archer brought up a story that, I don't know, I told my wife, I said, you know, there's always stories about coaching wrestling and me, and I don't really know what happened. I don't remember, nor do I know if they were true, so I'll just leave that part in there for now. I'd like to take a few minutes to recognize them. I come from a close, competitive family. It doesn't matter what the game you're playing in, you'll need to be at your best when competing against us. I've had the opportunity over the years not only coach, but also work with the following family members. 2 sons, a daughter who was a mat maid, 5 nephews, 1 brother, a brother-in-law, a couple of sisters-in-law, a future son-in-law, and the best of all, my wife. Because of this, there have been many stories about the Delligatti family. Most of them I do not remember, nor do I know if they are true or not. With all that being said, I'd like to recognize them, so you guys please stand up. I'm all business, that's okay. Now just let me tell you a little bit about my wife. I'm almost done here, so don't get too anxious or anything. I started wrestling when I was, really in high school, but I guess she must have thought I was cute or something because she married me. Later on, we had kids, and I was coaching my sons, and she comes up to me and she tells me, I want you to know that I never really liked wrestling. So I thought about it for a while, then I came to the conclusion that she must have just loved me, and wrestling came with it. So she knows I love her too. In closing, I'd like to end this message with all involved in wrestling. And here's the thing that I stress the most. It's very simple. It's supposed to be fun. So you need to make it fun. I know I've worked every practice and thinking and trying to make up ways to make things fun. I know Coach Whittington, who you're going to talk to, and Coach Beane, who's already spoken, they always find ways to make things fun for their wrestlers. A kid that's having fun is easy to motivate. That's what I've always said. So I want to end this by saying what I would always say to our wrestlers before a big match. I would tell them, look, wrestle hard, and let's go have some fun. And that's all we did. So thank you very much, and God bless everyone.
Make sure you get Joe back to the guy they sent from the home with him. Remember I told you you're right. Okay, next. I guess this guy may be my best friend. So let me give you this one I can tell a story about. Okay, we got Arden to scuba dive. That's not a joke because he doesn't have any damn arms. Okay, you don't use your arms. Okay, so the first dive when you go, they have a guide. Okay, the second dive, you're on your own. So the guy works for the Corps of Engineers, and he was a Jaeger scholar and all that stuff. And the guy he's with doesn't have those credentials. He thinks he knows everywhere you're going. Okay? So we're somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean, and as usual, it gets me lost. So because he has a little trouble marking down. That means I have to go up to the top and look for the boat to get us back. Okay? And when you do that, so they don't send a rescue swimmer or they don't bring the boat over, you go like this. And then they go, that's just somebody looking to see where they are. Okay? So I told him I would go up, and I go up, and I see that's about 200 yards away from the boat. So I look down, and I don't see him. Now remember, it looks just like this, clear as can be. So I was about halfway down, I'm, where is Mauck? He's lost in the Atlantic Ocean. So anyway, I look up, and he went up. He's above me. I go, oh no, now I gotta take him all the way back down. I hope he didn't shoot up, because then we're going to get hypodermic burn chamber. That's great. So I get up there, take the down, and go, what in the hell are you doing up there? What did you come up for? The weight fell off. I said, you didn't shoot up here. No. Remember what I told you about I'm okay. Okay? So I look, here comes the rescue swimmer. He's swimming like this guy's died. And I go, you idiot, what did you come up for? The weights fell off. You're going to embarrass me, aren't you? Oh, no, I'm not going to say anything about it when we get back on the boat. I'm just going to tell them they come over and pick this up, just like we were on a taxi or an Uber driver. Okay? So, we get back on the boat, and the people are going, oh, look, this old man has his son out there trying to teach him how to do this. Something happened, and they had to call the rescue boat. They come to get him. So we get on the boat at night to start. I said, what's wrong, you moron? Just start. So I said, Arden, why didn't you just tell him I'm okay? Okay? He goes. And you're going to see why. Arden, come on up here. So this day, every time I go. Anyway, Arden, you're up. Fire away, buddy.
Hello, my name is Arden Sanson, and you might be looking at me right here, trying to figure out why am I being honored today. And so I wanted to kind of go over my role and what wrestling's done for me, and hopefully what I've been able to do for wrestling. So it started back in junior high, Barnesville Junior High School. My first coach was Rick Newman, who's here today. I actually got picked on a little bit when I was in junior high. A kid stole my lunch one day. And then I became the manager of the wrestling team, and no one stole my lunch anymore. Ron Thacker's here. Ron was my bodyguard in junior high, so he was one of my first wrestling friends that I ever met, and still friends today. So that was the beginning of my wrestling involvement, my wrestling service, and it moved on from there. I went to Barnesville High School. I became great friends with Ernie Sparks. Ernie was inducted into this chapter a few years ago. Became very good friends with Ernie. Became his right-hand man. Took statistics for him. Kept track of all the wrestlers' records. Sometimes to Ernie's chagrin, because I don't know if you coaches know it, but you guys sometimes exaggerate the records in those seating meetings. So I went to lots of seating meetings with Ernie. Went to every tournament with the team. Both Ernie and Rick would have me time keep in our practice sessions. They would make me cheat. They would tell me to cheat, and the wrestlers knew that I was cheating, and Scotty Lingle one time told me that they were going to make me a spot on the wall, because they knew that the blow roll should have ended about 2 minutes ago. So I went to Barnesville High School, graduated in 1989, like Bill said, was fortunate enough to win a Jaeger scholarship at Marshall. So I was able to keep working with Ernie. I actually drove another wrestler here today, Pony Maynard, Eric Maynard, we call him Pony. One time we went up to Morgantown. I had a 1973 Oldsmobile Delta 88. And I know this is not safe, but we put 6 wrestlers in the Oldsmobile with me, and I drove them all the way to Morgantown and back. So Ernie had me chauffeuring wrestlers. Then I started going to camps. I'd go to camps and be one of the camp counselors. I'd stay in the dorms, make sure the kids went to bed at night and stayed quiet, what have you. And that's around the time that I also met Bill Archer. And that has been a big, big change in my life, as I'm sure you're not surprised. The first thing that Bill Archer ever asked me, we were at the Nitro tournament, and he says, I hear you're helping out Coach Sparks. And I said, yeah. And he says, well, Coach Sparks says you can drive. And I said, yes, sir, I can drive. And he says, well, I'm just glad there aren't as many handicapped drivers as there are handicapped parking spaces. That was my introduction. And then a few years later, I was driving and we were going to the YMCA in Huntington together. And he goes, go ahead and park in the handicap spot. And I said, I don't have a handicap. I don't have a handicap placard. I can't park there. And he goes, listen, I've been paying dues here for 35 years, and I have dreamed of the day that I can park in that parking spot. Pull your truck in there. So because me, Bill has got to park in the handicap spot at the YMCA at least once in his life. And then I started becoming involved in the state tournament. I started out taking scores and doing times, and then I moved on up, and eventually I became the announcer for the AA portion of the state wrestling tournament. So for all of you AA and single A folks out there, I apologize for mispronouncing your name. Sometimes the names were very, very interesting. But I had a very great time doing that. I did that up until, even though I moved away, I would fly home just about every year. And I did that last in 2020. Came back and announced the wrestling tournament. So I'm very, very, very thankful for having become involved in the wrestling community. I'm very humbled that Bill nominated me and that I get to join a group of people, some of whom I know very, very well, and it's just very humbling and grateful to be in that group. So I will say this: if you're still in schools, you know, you can have a really good effect on kids' lives that may not be wrestlers. So those of you who are still coaching and in the school system, if you run into somebody that looks like me or somebody who's obviously not a quote unquote athlete, you know, don't be afraid to get them involved, because it's not just the coaches and the wrestlers that benefit from organizations and the people like you all and others that make this sport what it is. I would just like to close by saying I appreciate my family. I've got family here from, my parents are gone, but I've got family here from both my dad and my mom's side of the family. So I appreciate their involvement, close friends. And last but not least, my best friend, Lisa Beane, who's my official photographer and life coach. And my brother Jason, who came in all the way from Georgia and put on a tie. I thought they might put on a tie for my funeral, but got him in a tie before I kicked the bucket. So I thank you all also for supporting me all my life. And anyway, thank you very much, and I'm happy to be here.
toenail on that thing, man. I don't remember that. I don't remember. All right, next. Can't say very much. Pat and I've known each other forever. His coach was probably my really, really best friend. Coach Orman's, and he's the only one I've ever said, I say, Coach, want to do this? Yeah, do it. So we went to Germany together 5 times. Pat, so.
Wow, this is amazing to me. We're all here, and every day I get up, I say I'm so blessed to be a part of you guys' lives as far as wrestling goes, and it's pretty much been all my life. And I'm so privileged and honored to be a part of this celebration today. When asked to be here today, it really made me get down and do some grassroots reality check. You know what I'm saying? And so I thought, how am I going to share with these people that's been around this sport all my life and everything that I already know about wrestling? So I got thinking deep into it, it doesn't really matter. I've got 5 minutes up here at the max, they say, and I'm going to just share what I would share to my wrestlers if I was in the wrestling. But first, before I do that, I want to say that before I even came in here today, people like Paul Jackson, it was just like 3 or 4 I remember that said, when are you going to stand up? What are you going to? That's one reason I got into wrestling, is I was asked as a kid. I've always been a semi-midget. But the bottom line is I want my mother to stand right now, and you're going to understand why I'm so tall. She made it here, about a 2-hour drive. She's 88 years old, and she is. One thing is everybody has always got short jokes. Around me. And I love it. I mean, I just one of the things that I like about short jokes is I had a vet on me one time who said, you know, you're so short, but you know, I give you 1 point for taking it. He said also, he said, you know what? He said, if you're on top, you don't have to be on top because you're just standing on the rest. So I'm going inside the referee's position. I'm in the best position I'm in. I don't even have to kneel. Then it goes on and on and on and on and on. But you know, short is short. And one thing that I unique about the sport of wrestling is it caters to all. And I couldn't be here if I wasn't asked to be in a sport that caters to every side of the community. For the national champs that don't have legs, the guy from Arizona State. I mean, there's just no end to it. And, it is so unique and such a unique sport that it caters to all of us. So now let me get into my speech, and I really was going to tell 2 or 3 more short jokes, but decided to go on. So bottom line is first, let me just clarify this. This is not about me. This is not about me at all. This is about a celebration to honor all of you. That's why we're here. And it's a celebration of all of you and many others that have had the privilege of being involved in the greatest sport known to man in this wrestling. And there's not a person in here that wrestling has an impact one way or the other. And if you think about it, wrestling goes all over the world, and it brings people together in all walks of life. It teaches each and every one of us about life. And you are here today, not because of me and the other inductees. You're here because you're blessed. We are so blessed to be involved or have ever been around this for us. Next, I want to say I'm so grateful, and in a sense, my story today is I'm so blessed, I'm so grateful, I'm so thankful. And the last 57 of my years of my life have been filled with developing friendships with people like you and I. And that's the bottom line, and it's been so amazing and awesome to share those years and days of countless hours of training, countless hours of traveling and competing with all of them. Whether we competed against you, I've got a lot of college wrestlers wrestlers here today. You know, we have spent literally days and hours and hours and hours of our whole lives still listening to the same as you as parents and other coaches. And, you know, every emotion known to man has been experienced in this room right here. And those experiences teach us about life, whether it's through defeat, through victory, through pain, through blood, sweat, and tears, as mentioned earlier. In all that sense, you know, I'm grateful for all that. And so also I'm grateful each and every one of you here today of the uniqueness that brought to the sport. And all you guys have been personally involved with me, whether you're a coach or a parent or a wrestler, I appreciate you. You're unique to me. We need you, period. So I can pretty much tell stories here about anyone that I personally know in this room that go way, 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 way back. And a couple of stories I want to share real quick is person home and a wife and teammate. My wife, their teammates, Diane Archer. Here's a couple that probably, I'm not going to say how old I am, but she comes back. He would have been in his 20s at the time. He was willing to pick up the south side from the other part of the state and take me to parts else in the country, to tournaments, just because they wanted to see the young man excel. And so we got to go. I got to find out how Bill Archer real quick. I realized that Diane really had her hands full. I envisioned that as even as a kid. But we go to tournaments in Pennsylvania. We go to tournaments in Virginia. One time we went to a tournament. He picked me up right here in Charleston. My dad dropped me off in front of the state captain. He picked me up. He didn't know me. And his first national tournament I got to go to was a freshman in high school. And it was at Hampton City, down in Virginia Beach area. And we went down there and he had this old beat up truck that we literally got in the truck. And I'm not going to say, but most of the time I was one of the guys right in the front seat. And other guys, some of his teams were in the back. And some of the things that we did and had fun, those are lifetime memories. I remember him taking us to the beach. Some of the guys have never seen the ocean before. And Bill wakes out and his little first collected with his camera. And the bottom line, after back in the 70s, old flat polyester pants. He was out there surfing the wave and shouting to these other guys here. That's memories that infiltrate you. But that year was the first year I got to wrestle in the Nationals. And many years on, got to wrestle constantly and have success at it. So those things form people's lives. They have an impact. And I wanted to say thank you to Bill and Diane. Actually, one time I could just go on and on and on. Diane let us stay, and her parents walked and were along and took paths. After the tournament, we jumped into the pond and swam. It was a good deal. So there's a lot of other coaches here, a lot of wrestlers and trainers that have been a part of my life. There's grad assistants here that work as grad assistants for me. And I want to say I'm grateful to you. And, there's so many guys that have been a little over me as assistant coaches, Chris Daggett and his wife, Lonnie, and Terry Collins, and his wife, Chris Daly, and his wife Allison. And I got a football player, brother-in-law, sister-in-law. Anyhow, it has been such, so I've had people commit for a long period of time and put into the sport of wrestling. Also, I'm thankful to all those who invested in my life in the sport who couldn't be good, or who have committed themselves and have went on and passed. To name a few of them is Mr. and Mrs. Ryle, Brenda Bonheim, which is my college coach, and Jeff and Beth Castro, Jesse Castro, who's one of my coaches at Pittsburgh University, and Tracy Good. There's some other people, Mark and Carl Miller, Dan, Pam Clevenger, Paul Ambrose all here, and Gary and Tammy Porter. There's just to go on and on and on and on. Over the years, I've seen wrestlers progress and succeed and make it out of school and make it into college, from every walk of life. Guys that are doctors, lawyers, got Chad Porter here, he's a doctor, chiropractor, and it's amazing how wrestling has brought people together. And there's some other people in my life that had a huge amount of influence, and I want to mention them right now. 3 in particular, and that was a guy named Jack Leach. That was my first wrestling coach. And another guy named Larry Riggs. He was one of the coaches that, them 2 coaches back in the 60s, was the guys that made Harvard for wrestling, not Harvard for wrestling. They're the ones that started the culture in my mind. And they're the ones that should be here in the Hall of Fame. And they take us to PA, they take us everywhere. They expose us to what happened. And they knew what it took to build. As they built the theater programs, the high schools in the county. So, I want to say that I'm down to the end of this. I'm so thankful for each and every one of you. And all of us here have specific people in our lives that have had a significant influence. And not only people that we co-work with or been involved as part of wrestling, but for me personally, like I say, the support of my family, specifically my parents. Dale and Russo, all passed a couple of years ago, and my brothers Jeff and Mike, and my wife Vicki, and my sons Dustin and Cody. They've always been there to support me. I mean, the hours and the days and the minutes, you're just going constantly. And it's been pretty much that way for the last 15 years or so at college. And this is an honor for you. This is to celebrate. And for all the coaches and wrestlers here that didn't mention their name, this is an honor for you. This is a celebration. And last for all the parents and friends here that and that I've had the privilege to coach their sons or their daughters. This has truly been an honor and a privilege. And this is an honor and celebration for you. And I guess to those of you that are here, that are still involved in wrestling, I challenge you to carry the torch. And never give up. Run the race, grind it out, never give it up. And give unto others and serve others so as they have done unto you. And last, I want to say I'm so thankful because wrestling is a part of my faith and belief system. I'm convinced that wrestling is a God thing. And it's mentioned in the Bible more than any other sport. And it's really bigger than life when you think about it. And so I want to say I'm so glad, so grateful, so thankful. It's been an honor to serve.
This next guy is more full of crap than me. What do I need to say except Mr. Bill Whitney? If it offends anybody, I haven't seen the speech.
You know, I've been to a few of these inductions over the years. They're all impressive, very solemn, lots of laughs, lots of cheers. But probably one that sticks out in a lot of people's minds is the induction year of 2014. And that's the year that George Keeney and Mike Kirby were inducted, one right after the other. But George going first. And George's speech was long enough to rival that of any presidential inaugural speech. And Mike Kirby's speech was somewhere between 6 and 8 words, where he managed to mention George in that speech. And I made up my mind a long time ago, if I ever made it here, that I would ask George Keeney to write my speech, and I would ask Mike Kirby to deliver it. But sadly, George is no longer with us, and Mike is a man of even fewer words now. And so you're stuck with me. But leave to Bill Archer to ask a man that's 73 years old, been in wrestling for 42 years, to pack everything in 4 minutes. I guess I better get to work. Bill, I've got to tell you, even a bad wrestling match can go 8.5 minutes. You know. I would sincerely like to thank those people that nominated me and voted for me. I'm so grateful, and this is an incredible honor. I'm especially proud to be inducted with the class that I'm with today. I get to meet Pat Soul and Coach Pruitt today. I've been at it with Sterling for over 40 years now. And I have a lot of respect for that man. And Mark Delligatti, I've known him for 35 years. And he and his family have a very, very special place in my heart. It was always a pleasure to go up on the score stand and visit with Arden and say a few words. So I've got to tell you, there's a lot of stories floating around this state authored by Bill Archer, and you better check with him on the accuracy of some of those. Some of them are hilarious, some of them are a little scary. And to be enshrined with all those people that came into this Hall of Fame before me is just an incredible feeling. I'm amazed by it. So many fine athletes and coaches and citizens and patriots. You know, I've always believed that coaching starts in the home. That's where the real support begins, right in your own home. And it didn't take me long after I got started in this beautiful sport of ours to find out that I wasn't even the best wrestling coach of my own house. That title belongs to my wife, Sharon Lynn. And lady, I gotta tell you, I couldn't have done it without you all these years. All those years of washing singlets and warm-ups, hauling kids all over West Virginia, Maryland, Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Ohio, chaperoning, juggling kids between arenas, hotel rooms, and places to eat. I couldn't have done it without you. I thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I love you very much. To my 3 children, Bill, Virginia, and John, it's not easy being a wrestling worker sometimes. But I hauled you kids into weight rooms, practice rooms, auditoriums, gyms, armories, and just let you have some fun. And I thank you so much for your love, for your patience, and your loyalty. I love you, Brats. You know, I've been very fortunate to have had great administrators and wonderful teacher-supported heads in high school. It's the only place I've ever coached, folks. No place else. But one one man especially who's here today, Mr. Don Delligatti. Donnie was in a PE class when I student taught a long time ago. And a few short years after that, we got to teach and coach together. Then he became athletic director and I worked for him. Then he became vice principal and I worked for him. Then he became principal and I worked for him. Then he became assistant superintendent of schools and I worked for him. This man's a dear friend of mine and he always did what was best for me and my teams. Donnie, I love you and I thank you so very much. My friends, I've only had 6 assistant coaches in 42 years. I don't know how you can interpret that any way you want. But these 6 men that I've had are 6 of the finest men any head coach would ever want beside them or backing them up. Ben Merrick, Bill Fulton, Don Leahy, Darrell Hayes, Dennis Burlingame, and my current coach, Matt Ford. All of these guys are incredible men. They were hard workers, extremely knowledgeable, loyal, dedicated. They were great with kids, and they were tireless. Thank goodness they were tireless, because I did work in like pack mules. I couldn't have done it without these fine men, and I'm so grateful to have had each and every one a part of my professional career. To all my wrestling parents, all my friends, my supporters, and all you people that came down here today to share this day with me and my family, I want to send each one of you a great big hug and a never-ending thank you. I will never forget the things you folks have done for me. To each and every athlete, wrestler that I've ever coached, I want to say thank you. I want to say that I'm proud of you. And I want to tell you that I love you. And don't forget what I told each and every one of you every chance I got. Somehow, someday, some way, you pay the sport back because you owe it big time. Make sure you pay that debt. From the great ones I've had, like Robert Jarrett, Anthony Rickle-Budo, Daniel Lord, Bill Fulton, Steve Height, John Cardello, Mike Cardello, fine young men, fine athletes, great competitors. All I had to do was get a schedule, a singlet, get them a ride, take them somewhere and turn them loose. Even down to those little guys I had that I'm not sure we ever taught them a whole lot of wrestling, but maybe in 3 or 4 years we taught them a lot of things about life that they needed to know. I had one little boy one time come into our wrestling room, had never seen a wrestling match, never been to a practice, wanted to come out. Took me in the room, he'd never even stood on a wrestling match before, and he said, "Where's the road?" True story. I've had little kids that didn't know half Nelson from Willie Nelson, but I love every single one of them. And I still think about it to this day. You know, we wrestling coaches, we had to make a lot of money doing this. And I know to a man, every one of us in this room would have paid our counties to let us do it. But you know, every time one of my boys comes back to the wrestling room, comes to an event, comes to my house to maybe drink a beer or two with me, sometimes the Cardellos show up 11, 12 o'clock at night. I go to bed sometimes at 8. But every time one of them comes back, we sit and talk and they say, "Coach, thank you for everything. You kept me in school. I had so much fun. Remember what Chad Donaldson did with that box of donuts for Coach Fulton here? Remember when we went here? Remember when we grabbed? Remember going to Fairmont? And remember the year we wore the black singlets for 9/11 with the monogram on the front? We wore the same singlet all year long. We had to wash it every night we wore it all year." Or when one of them comes back and becomes one of my unpaid volunteer assistants. That's when I get paid millions of dollars in memories and pride. And so when Coach Archer called me, that's the story. He tried to get in touch with me for several days, and I didn't answer my phone. And he was calling me and cursing me, calling me things you would not believe. Come to find out, the phone number he had for me was the wrong phone number. And he got a phone call from this little old lady and said, "Are you William Archer?" "Yes, ma'am, I am." "Have you been trying to get in touch with William Bubby Whittington?" "Yes, ma'am, I am." "And he's a friend of yours? And you're a friend of his?" "Yes, ma'am, we are." She said, "I shudder to think what you call your enemies." But when Bill called me, he told me that I'd been nominated and possibly elected, I got to thinking after a few days, I'm not sure I'm worthy of this. Got to thinking about it, and all the great guys who told me that were going to be inducted with me, and all these fine people that have been enshrined before me, I thought, shh, I'm not sure I belong here. So what I did, I sat down and I read every biographical sketch of every person inducted in this hall. Because Bill Archer, Diane said I should do that. So I did. And I found out that I know so many of you, so many of you. I wish all of them that I knew were here today. And so many of you have been a positive influence on my life and my career. You don't even know it. You have no idea. You know, nobody's ever asked me if I've ever met the Pope. And if someone did, I'd have to say no, but I'll tell you what. I met Rod Oldham, and I met Beane Monsanto Bell. That's damn close. I'm telling you straight up. That's as close. I never got to meet Dick Manning. I never got to meet Mr. Dutton. But I'll tell you what. The ones that really made a difference in my life and career, Bill Archer. I cherish every minute I've ever spent around him. Competing against him, listening to his stories, listening to his advice. Get plenty of that, and it's free. He told me one time, a long time ago, he said, you know, Bubby, he said, when you come to Huntington, he said, you need to take your kids over to the university on the campus and see that fountain dedicated to that football team that died in a crash. And he said, it's winter time, there's no water in it, there's going to be no water running, but take those kids over to see it, and you need to take them out to that cemetery and let them see that memorial out there. He said, but do some research before you bring them down there and do that. So I did what we did. And all these years since, every year when we get to Huntington, we go there. Rain, sleet, snow, shine, wind, we're there and we remember. Gary Bender, as fine a gentleman as wrestling coach as you'd ever want to meet. I admired him and watched him from afar for years. And I always admired how he carried himself on the mat and off of it. Proud to know him. Three guys, good friends of mine from Region 2. Roy Michael, John Gary, Joe Navinicola. I'll tell you what, if you look up the word intensity in a wrestling dictionary, you can find the mugs of those three. That's how they work. And I don't know if John and Roy are here today, but I know Joe is, and I'd like to thank you three for all the ass kickings over the years you've given me. I'll tell you what, I learned a lot more from losing than I ever did from winning. Thanks very much for those kickings, fellas. Joe Knapp has the best throwing arm of any wrestling coach I have ever seen. One day he threw away one. You guys remember those Kramer water containers, the big heavy plastic 32 ounces with that plastic nozzle that came out, you just pour water in a kid's mouth? Well, he threw one away one time. I don't know why he threw it away, but it managed to come all the way across a wrestling mat and strike me just below my belt buckle right on my zipper. And it was full. I mean, water bottle. And the rest of that day in that little bandbox gym in Kaiser, I coached with a soprano, but hell, who can get mad at Joe Knapp? Guys that mean so much to me. Guys that I've admired. Joe Hanley, you guys know him. He ran that state champion factory out there in Parkersburg all those years. You know what I'm talking about. Fine man, great coach, fun to watch. Diane Archer, the first lady of West Virginia Wrestling. Lady, I'd like to thank you for every kind word you've ever given me. I'd like to thank you for all that you've done for me and my teams. I don't know how you find time to do what you do. You found time to raise your oldest son, William J. Archer. You made a great coach out of him. You made a great husband out of him. You made a great father out of him. You made a great friend out of him. I don't know how you got him interested in politics, but damn, that was a mistake. Good friends of mine and yours in this hall that are no longer with us. People like Stevie White, Jimmy Phelps, Ernie Sparks, Bobby DeLorenzo. Every time I would take my kids to Fairmont for a regional tournament or the Winner's Choice tournament on Friday morning and Saturday morning, I would hightail myself uptown to that McDonald's and try to catch up with Bobby, Coach Joe Redden, and the rest, a bunch of guys that I call them the Irish Club. Excuse me. And I'd stand there and have a cup of coffee, and they'd make fun of me, and they'd ridicule me, and then I'd go back down to the Army. Then later on that afternoon, and this happened every time, every afternoon, sitting there in the bleachers would be Bobby DeLorenzo and Skip Delligatti. And Bobby said, what do you, hey, come here, get her. Yes, sir. I got to tell you, your daughter's beautiful. I said, Bobby, it's not my daughter, it's my wife. He said, no. She's too young, she's too pretty, she's too fat, old, and ugly. That has got to be your daughter. My dear friend Tommy Lewis, I so wish old T. Luke could be here today so I could shake his hand, give him a hug, bum 2 pieces of big red chewing gum off him, and just talk. Dear friend, we got a dear friend here today. I call him the pride of Kanawha County, Jimmy Crawford. I try to spend an hour a day with him at the state tournament every day, sitting on the WBSSAC platform, right in front of the score stand. We talk politics, we talk religion, we talk wrestling, we talk kids, we talk America, and it's time well spent. There's some fine officials that left us too early. Barry Gatchell, Kenny McWilliams, George Keeney. And there's a bunch of great officials that are in this Hall of Fame that are still with us here on Surf today. Richard Hare, officiated in West Virginia for a long time. He's a member of the Maryland chapter of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. Ray Marlin, Bill Welker, Tom Woods, Johnny Staggers, Woody Burns, Jack Regis, and my good friend Mike Soniker. I love these guys. I took the time to always tease them and say, hey man, are we watching the same wrestling match here? Well, why don't you try these on? My God, Bill, I brought you some prime rib bones for your senile dog. Please feed that dog. You need to eat more carrots, good for your eyes. Ray Marley, please eat more fish, it's brain food. But it was all gentle, good-natured teasing because I respected all these men, I loved them. And they have a harder job sometimes than we do. And I knew every time that my kid went out on the mat with one of them, that my kid was going to get a fair shake as I would. But most importantly, my kid would be safe and protected while he was on the mat with these men. And I got to tell you a referee story. I know I only got 4 minutes, Bill. I'm almost done. I'm almost done. I got to tell you a referee story. We were in the city one time for a really, really tough wrestling tournament in January. And we had to weigh in on this big old stage behind a faded burgundy velvet curtain on a cold concrete floor. And that year I didn't have a heavyweight. But we had an old raw-boned boy by the name of Mike Barrett, one of them hollers out there in Hedgesville. His family cut wood and they pumped septic systems. And he couldn't make heavyweight. We tried every week to get him some matches. We fed him half subs, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, candy, chocolate ice cream, milk, whatever we did. Sometimes he made weight, sometimes he did not make weight. So this day up there, I'm standing back on stage on the clipboard, and the official comes back and said, hey, Bob, he said, your heavyweight didn't make weight. I said, oh, man. He goes, well, he did, but he didn't. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, he stepped on the scales and he made weight. And when he stepped off, he sighed, and when he went, whew, he blew 2 quarters out of his mouth. And I said, well, there's not very many heavyweights this weekend here. I'm going to go out and run, there's not very many heavyweights. Go ahead and let him make the rush. He said, we can't do that. I said, look, I brought him up here, I'd like to get him some matches. He's 50 cents short of getting in your tournament. Just go on and let him. He's not. All right? Okay. But I'm going to tell you, if he wins some matches, I'm going to turn you in. I said, thank you, and I walked away, got a few feet away, and I turned around and called the official by name, and I said, hey, remember, when you turn me in, you're going to be turning you in. So old Michael that day lost 2 straight. He was so proud to have wrestled for his Eagles. The people you can see, This whole day here for me is not about Bill Williams. Not at all. I'm so happy to be here, so grateful, so blessed. But it's not about me. It's about all those people on whose arms and on whose shoulders and whose backs I rode right through the front door of this Hall of Fame. The people that got me here. It's like my wife, my children, my friends, my coaches, my administrators. Most importantly, my wrestlers and their parents. And it's all about these people in this Hall of Fame that these gentlemen up here earlier were talking about. It's all about you folks. And I want you to know, if I mentioned your name here today, I want you to know that everything I said about you, I meant. Every single solitary word. And all of you, if I could be half the man that you are, I'd be twice the man that I am. And I owe you so much. And I'm honored, I'm humbled, and I'm damn proud to be here. And we all need to remember, whether we're wrestlers, whether we're coaches, administrators, sports writers, or fans, as long as we are thinking, as long as we are believing, and as long as we are dreaming, practice never ends. God bless you, God bless America, and God bless West Virginia wrestling. Thank you.
Now, before I forget anything, first off, will anybody in here that's been inducted in the Hall of Fame, please stand up. Ms. Crawford, you all right? That's probably good as everything. I did forget the church joke, so I'll do that, but if you all don't know Jenny, stand up. Jenny is, well, really, is Bear Hugger's daughter. That's all right, I ain't call her anything anyway. No, Jenny took over for Doc, and probably would have anybody did that. People don't realize how good our website is in West Virginia. You look on other ones and they're just terrible. I mean, they're terrible. And Jenny is found out it's a lifetime job, and she's also on the board with us, but I was going to say that. Sure, she took all the pictures. But anyway, let me tell you two things ahead of time. One, when we finish, everybody get Jenny over here, all right? Get over here, and we'll give you these jackets, and we'll take a picture of all of them. Okay? So don't forget, because that's for fun stuff. Okay? Now, usually I start every Sunday off getting in trouble. Because the first off, my principal at St. Joe wasn't Catholic. But that, you know, they have that little trough back there, Catholics at the back. But the priest told me, he said, Bill, don't stand there by that thing, you're intimidating people. So the same thing happens in my church is the minister keeps count. And I write down comments and give him the envelopes, and then he doesn't ever answer back. But anyway, he said, Bill, would you not stand back there by the door? Why? He said, you intimidate people. And I said, why? I don't do anything. Yes, you do. Okay, you know how people come to church. Flips, shorts, t-shirt. Now, sometimes I just talk to them. I go, oh man, today's not the church picnic. Man, I know you thought it was a picnic. The sun went hat. No. This is a church. And see, I don't know why people would get upset about that, but some do turn into that. Okay, told you we saved the best word for last, and if you look back on the table, we a lot of stuff you never seen before. Coach Brooke, if you're the football coach at Marshall, you mentioned I was the pallbearer. Honorary pallbearer, all the sports captains were at the plane crash, and also came back when it happened. And you go into class like kinesiology, and don't think I had any sense. I got a D, I'm sure. But anyway, and there was 41 guys in there on Friday, and there was about 13 gone when you're 23. And that was a horrible, horrible thing, and Buddy's right. I encourage everybody to do that. And it was the movie, I give it half. I don't know what Coach Brooke would say, but Red Dawson's, I coached his son, Little League, and he's still a challenge guy. But anyway, when I looked at this class, I said, this is the best class we ever had. And Wayne and I were always trying to figure out a time to get that Coach Brooke would come, because we knew he wrestled for Woodrow, and I saw him wrestle in the conference they had at Marshall. But he was always had something else to do. But anyway, tremendous guy, always was a great guy, and I've been through all the coaches Marshall ever had, and some think they're better than the end of the world. Some people think they're really good. This guy right here is a very, very good, humble man. Bob Brooke.
I had a really good speech, but I had it in another sport coat. What an honor it is just awesome to be in a room with great coaches, outstanding athletes, beautiful women. I mean, I'm telling you the truth, it's just wonderful, and what an honor it is to get an award like this in your home state. Grew up in East Beckley with a man Bennett back there. He knows. Went into downtown back, East Beckley, and loved it. Got to go to Marshall University on a football scholarship. So I really learned how to coach when I went out for wrestling. I think that, we won a lot of football games. Football, I often say, is not a game for well-adjusted people. It really isn't. How many times a week do y'all line up 10 yards apart and run into each other hard as you can, and then jump up and say, good hit? But I really think, and my buddy Roger Jefferson back here, he was in the Hall of Fame, and we were teammates. Great, great coach. But I really think wrestling, having coached it, having participated in it, having officiated it, having run state wrestling tournaments, having two sons who were West Virginia state champions. One of them was the outstanding wrestler, won 79 straight matches.
it is a challenge. And you have to be fundamentally sound. And you have to be technique oriented. You learn so much because you have to start with the basics. Teach them what to do, how to do, why to do, when to do. And then the most important part of it. How many people the good Lord, do you think the good Lord's in this room? Raise your hand. Well, that's strong belief now. Nobody's seen him in 2,000 years. I get down on my knees and I give him money. I pray to him. I keep feeling him. I can't touch him. Now that's belief. If you're going to be a good wrestler or good at anything, you have to believe, and that's the kind of belief you have to have. That's what we told our kids at halftime. In the East Carolina game, we're down 38-8. So guys, if you don't believe, we got no chance. No chance. You got to believe in your coaches, you got to believe in your teammates, and you got to believe in yourself. The true measure of a champion is his ability to repeat his previous accomplishments. The true measure of a champion is his ability to repeat. When you got a champion that repeats, that's a champion. You know, Bill Archer, I remember when I came back, I was a high school coach in Virginia, and I came back here to take a job with Sonny Randall as an assistant coach. Took a $10,000 pay cut to come back here. First person I called was who? Bill. I had two sons in the West. I wanted to go to the best wrestling program here. Where did I have to move? Well, we couldn't find a house we could afford in that area. We had to go to Barberville. But we wanted him to go to Bill because I knew Bill, and I knew the program, and I knew the type of coach he was at the time, and he has been, and his son-in-law was tremendously. I bring my grandson down when he was wrestling, 4-time state wrestling champion in North Carolina. Every Christmas, or in his when my sons were wrestling, and I'd come home for Christmas. Before we came here, I took them to Ditch Manning's at Shady Springs High School. Let him work out there because he was a good coach. He got good work ethic. They competed. Wrestling's tough. Now, I tell you the real reason that Roger Jefferson can relate to this, and he don't even know what I'm talking about. He and I did the same thing. One thing that neither one of us, I know we think about it time. I was a young wrestler. Roger was a year ahead, 2 years ahead of me, I think. We both had the privilege of wrestling Harry Huska, the wrestling coach at Ohio University. He was an NC2A champion, an Olympic champion. I mean, he was a great wrestler. Here I am in a sauna because I lost out from playing football to 177, having a sweatsuit in Gallatin Hall, spitting into a cup to try to lose 3/4 of a pound to wrestle a national champion who I just read an article in Sports Illustrated that he had boa constrictors around his neck. And we'd go out to it's all true. When we go out to the match, he don't even line up. He don't come out with his team. Remember that? He didn't even warm up with him. He came out by himself one time. You think he's psyching somebody out? Now why am I trying my best and all I got to do is take a sip of water and I don't have to wrestle him? Now it doesn't make sense.
wrestling has really improved in the state of West Virginia because of you. All of you, your energy, enthusiastic, everything about you. You're great coaches. Great coaches. Do what you do and start with the little ones that don't know what to do and bring them all the way through. And my boys, I got to know Billy Martin when I was a wrestling coach and a high school football coach in Virginia. And I ran the tournaments, the big tournament. Billy, his son, wrestled. Now he had all these NC2A champions. You know, he invented the Granby roll and all that stuff, and the turn in and all that. So I said, Rodney, he spent 3 weeks on his strawberry farm. Go down there, basketball week, then he work on the farm on the weekends, stay over 3 weeks. My kids, I take the other kids down there. As you know, and I know, you can gain a full season in the summer, doing the tournaments and getting in the car and going to War, Virginia, or somewhere down there that you can get in a wrestling tournament. But I really, really admire and honor you. But, you know, as much as I admire you, the person I admire most is my wife, Elsie. Elsie, stand up here. Next December, we'll be married 61 years. He says 19 good ones, and then anyway. Got my grandson Bob, his wife Amanda, and my great-granddaughter here to come and see this, because this is something that's really special. I've been fortunate enough to live my dream. When I walked across the stage at Marshall University in 1965, my dream were all almost fulfilled. I wanted to be a football player. I was. Had a contract with the Dallas Cowboys in my back pocket. And my dream was to come back and be the head football coach in Marshall. You go through a lot of things to fulfill your dream. Came back in '79, was an assistant coach. Realized I was going to have to leave to come back. I got in, was here for 4 years, and then went to Wake Forest University. As a defensive coordinator all through all these times. The first year you saw in Marshall, I was a defensive line coach just out of high school, and then the next 3 years I was a defensive coordinator. Coached the secondary, coached defensive backs, and then I was at Wake Forest. Try to make this thing short, but I was at Wake Forest in 1990. The head coaching job at Marshall came open. I wanted to be, this is my chance. And I go down and at the national convention. Lee Moon was the athletic director, who was a dear friend. Interviewed for the job. He interviewed 4 people. He told me, Bob, he said, you're a good coach. The Marshall's coming on now. Just Coach Johnson just taken him to a runner-up in the national championship. So we need somebody just playing on TV, going to bowl games. But Wake Forest, we were playing so many homecomings, we had to take our own float. One day we were in homecoming, we thought it was a deep bus. But anyhow, I come back home and I'll sit there this. I looked at her and I said, honey, if I can't get the head coaching job at Marshall, I can't get one anywhere. Did get offered the job at Sheriff. But Coach Dooley came in at Wake Forest and kept me as his coordinator, so I stayed on and tried to live my dream. 1 year And I said, we gotta leave. I said, we love it here in Winston-Salem. But I gotta play on TV. Playing bowl games, I said, we're doing a good job here, we're above 500, but we're just not what he's looking for. So we pick it up, and we go to Ole Miss. I goes the secondary coach. We runner up first year, I think we played Liberty Bowl, and then we played the Gator Bowl. We got that. Now I looked at some things that are going on at Ole Miss. I said, we need to leave on it. Y'all understand what I'm referring to. So I got the job, didn't want to go to New Orleans, got the job as a defensive coordinator at Tulane University. A year later, everybody got tired of Ole Miss, so we got out of town quick. There 2 years, and a job at the University of Florida opened for a secondary coach. I'm driving to the state of Florida and pick up my cell phone and call the office, the Florida football office, and Coach Spurrier hasn't answered the phone. I had made him at Wake Forest because he was at Duke. It would be 3 out of 4 years when I was the coordinator. He's a big pass guy. And I was a secondary guy, so we had some success. I saw in the paper there that he said he's complaining about the way the secondary was playing. And I said, Coach, I said, I can coach those DBs for you now. I said, they won't throw it over my head. 2 days later, he calls me and wants me to come in for a visit. I go in, and the guy in Arizona, and I didn't know I was interviewing for the defensive coordinator job. I was just trying to get on. Because I'd always wanted to coach at Florida. I had 3 brothers in there. Elsie tells me, don't you go down there and take his job before you talk to me. So, okay. So, I'm there. Coach Spurrier's funny. My interview was on the golf course. True story. He likes to play golf. Everybody knows that. So we go up to his country club. He's got me a pair of shoes and some clubs. We're playing 18 holes. During that time, he's talking to us and everything.
I never had such a good meeting. This way talk to her. I never had such a good meeting.
Okay. You know, so we play 18. He said, we got to play an emergency 9. That's another 9 holes. He said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you 7 strokes. We'll play for $2. It's okay. So we come to number 9. Okay. And I'm 5 strokes. I'm still up. He's only beat me on 2 holes. I got 5 strokes on the last hole. Well, I 7 cut. There was no, this assistant coach wasn't going to beat him. You know. Unfortunately, you know, the guy from Arizona, who's their team, their defense was led the nation in defense. And we just, Tulane, we just lost to Florida State about 70-7. You know, I said, I don't know. So I'm in the room talking to him on the phone to the offensive line coach. He says, I was going to hang on, you know. So I get, somebody rings in on the phone. I said, "Better take it." It was Coach Spurrier. Yes, sir. You want to be defensive coordinator? I said, yes, sir. I said, oops. And that's how it happened. That's how it happened, because we'd done good against him. And then 2 years later, I come back. We won the SEC championship twice. A great defense. Go to the Sugar Bowl, play in the Fiesta Bowl against Nebraska for the national championship, and didn't play very well. To be honest with you, our players quit at halftime. They got arguing among themselves. Arguing among themselves about whose fault it was.
Someone asked me, said, how in the world did you get them to come back? 38-8, one of the top 10 comebacks of all sports. I learned a lesson. The way you become a better coach is you learn where your losses, don't you, coach? You learn from your losses. And I looked at him and I walked to him. Don't you quit. You better not quit. You quit on me. You think it's bad now? You quit. I said, I can live with whatever you do, but don't you quit. If you quit on me, it'll be bad. It'll be bad. You better not quit. You understand? You can't quit. Don't you quit on me, Diane. Don't you quit on me, Big Big. Understand? They didn't quit. They didn't quit. What we were doing, the best players don't make the best team, but the best team always wins. We had the best players, but we were not the best team. You're the best team, you win. They just kept chipping away, chipping away, chipping away. Scored 2 or 3 times on defense, 2 times on defense, chipping away. Imagine if the good Lord had to intervene. We're on the 30-yard line coming out. There's 30 seconds to go in the game. We're 4th and 30. 30 seconds and no timeouts. We throw a pass, get the first down, go down with 8 seconds left in the game. We score. Tie game. Extra point, missed the extra point. How can it die? What's it? You chasing me, Lord? What are we doing? So we come back and win in double overtime. That's what I think you learn from wrestling. Great wrestling. Son wrestled at West Liberty University. On scholarship there before you got there. My oldest boy left on scholarship. My grandson at NC State on wrestling scholarship. I didn't have a wrestling scholarship. I just wanted to compete. Well, I was going to tell you that in the off season we go up in the wrestling or whatever wrestling. Compete. Compete. Because you have to be a man, and if you quit at any time in a wrestling match, you're dead. If you relax any time, you can loaf at football. In wrestling, you better be right all the time. All the time. It's really an honor. It's a privilege. I love the state of West Virginia. Coach Neal and I go all over the state trying to do good. If you have something you don't need a thing, if you have something we can help you with, you just call. Okay? Cell phone 304-633-0205. Got a card if you need it. We don't need anything. We don't charge anything. We just want to help us get better. Help our state get better. Because it's a great state to live. Can't believe I'm here. The people of West Virginia let me live my dream. Our dream. My grandson's here, Bob Pruitt. He, born in Mississippi, could come home to West Virginia to work. He's an attorney. You saw my neighbors. I want to thank all y'all for coming together. This is just a thrill. Who wouldn't be thrilled today? Bill, you've done wonderful. Wayne, great job. All of you. This is super. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. God bless. Everybody stand up real quick. Real quick. I know you didn't stand up real quick. Okay, let's do this right here. I bet Carolyn kid over here $100 I can get a standing ovation.
Second person wore full of crap. Okay, you guys listen to inductees so we get this right. And Jenny's gonna take the pictures. Leave your suitcase jacket back at your seat. Come up here, and we'll give you these. And we'll take the picture over here. And so you know, I appreciate everybody coming. I hope I'm not depressing again, but wait, what? I'm not saying no prayers. I've done that before, and I don't think he listens. You have to have a little cred. No, I'm finishing. So anyway, if you please, those envelopes on the table, if you want to put them on Amanda and George Keeney's grandchildren, we need some help with that. Okay? All right, Diane, you're up. Second man in the world right here. 53 years. Like a dream for her.
I'd like to say thank you all for coming today. This has been a wonderful day, and I'm so proud of everybody that has been awarded inductees to the West Virginia Wrestling Hall of Fame this year. We are so proud of everything that you have done, and we appreciate it. Due to the inductees' hard work, dedication, and generously giving of your time and talents, you all are so deserving of this great honor. You have been blessed by the support and love of your families, the coaches, your wrestlers, and all your communities for this achievement. Finally, you must never forget how you got to this position and what wrestling has given to you. We are all so very proud of each one of you all. Please let us pray. Dear God, thank you for allowing this gathering and time of fellowship with our new West Virginia Wrestling Hall of Fame inductees, their families and friends, to celebrate the sharing of their life's accomplishments and their unselfishness to give and help others with their love and talents. Through our prayers, we ask that you allow us to reach home safely and be blessed with your grace and wisdom. Be our great shepherd, and let the kingdom come here on earth. Let all matters discussed today serve as our guide to living our lives in accordance with your will. All these we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. God bless each and every one of you today.